Welcome back. If you're new, you can have me scuttling around inside your skull by subscribing. Click the bell notification and you won't miss anything. To ensure that you get the best and most immersive creepy experience with this horror story, please wear headphones or turn up the volume. The huge passenger jet was almost brand new. My guess no more than just 2 months. This new plane had fantastic air conditioning, so inside the smell was fresh, not full of the germs you'd expect from older planes. A young healthy guy from work caught pneumonia from bad air in a passenger jet due to faulty air conditioning. The geezer almost died. On the aircraft I was on, the cabin crew were friendly and professional. All crew looking smart, almost military efficient. I noticed there was no child passengers near me. In fact, I'm sure everyone was over 30 years old on this plane, so thankfully there was no crying. Everyone on board was in their own little world. Everyone was quiet and relaxed, and in turn it made me feel calm. I wasn't hungry, I wasn't worried about my luggage getting lost, and I wasn't interested in what films they showed on the small screen in front of me. I was prepared to simply enjoy this flight, but something didn't feel right and I didn't know what it was. I remember there were so many people on this plane and there were no empty seats, but for some reason I couldn't remember watching people walking on the plane. It was a bit of a blur, which was weird because I didn't have any alcohol before boarding the plane. Oh, I know why I can't remember. It's a bit like that feeling when I'm driving my car along a road and when I reach the end and can't remember any detail about sections of the road I've just driven on. Yeah, I was daydreaming, that's all it was, nothing dramatic. I'm such a big kid, I just love having a window seat when flying. I do remember standing up carefully so I didn't bang my head on the luggage compartment above. I turned around just to have a look towards the back of the plane. Other passengers weren't doing their own thing. They weren't looking at any iPads, computers, watching in-flight entertainment or chatting. They were all smiling at me, not a big wide grin smile, but just a polite, gentle smile, like, nice to see you too, mate, smile. I turned my face forward and sat down. I looked out of the window again and thought that's really nice, but at the same time, very strange because everyone looking at me the same way, it sort of made me laugh to myself. Because in my weird and over-the-top mind, I imagined them all to be like obedient robots. I was nice and relaxed and I took a deep breath. Happy to think that there had been no delays, no stress. That's a very rare feeling to have when flying, no stress. I could feel that the passengers around me were friendly and relieved because the takeoff was so smooth. I continued to stare out of the small window and daydream. I can dream about the future, I can dream about the past, and I can dream about getting away from it all. Leaving all my problems behind me, and hopefully some of my friends will miss me. I could see beautiful white clouds with the backdrop of beautiful blue sky. No rain, all calm and wonderful to look at. And there was no turbulence and I felt happy, really happy. Yet still something didn't feel right. Something was wrong. I wasn't concerned about the plane crashing because that doesn't scare me, and I wasn't concerned about someone freaking out or being ill because I knew I was in a safe place, but then just while my brain was trying to figure out what exactly I was feeling, I looked at the beautiful white clouds, and before my eyes the white clouds turned gentle red. I looked around to see if anyone else witnessed what I saw. I stood up again carefully so I didn't bang my head, and everyone was looking at me again. No one smiling, just a blank stare. I was nice and chilled, so I couldn't be bothered to say anything. So I sat down, looked outside and watched as all the clouds slowly turned from gentle red to blood red. The lights in the cabin dimmed. I presumed it was that time passengers would try and catch some sleep. And after a few minutes wondering how to react to the stunning red colour of the clouds in the sky outside, I got up very slowly again, expecting my fellow passengers to be asleep. The lights briefly came on again so I could see clearly. Everyone wasn't asleep, not one single person. They all were just looking at me again, but this time their faces weren't smiling. They weren't staring blankly at me either. They all were looking at me with their mouths wide open, and eyes were also wide open. I noticed the people sitting closer to me had tears streaming down their still faces. Look, I don't scare easy, and seeing all these strangers' faces, eyes and mouths wide open, it was like as if they were all trying to tell me something. It was a very scary thing to witness. And when I looked out of the window again, the sky changed from beautiful blue to the red colour of the clouds. Everything was flooded with red colour outside. All I could hear was the sound of this aircraft, this wonderful brand new passenger jet aircraft flying along, and after a few moments the plane started to descend. The colours of the sky and clouds changed to black, deep jet black, and as the plane gently lowered itself, I stood up and looked at the passengers around and behind me again. Their faces were still looking at me, but this was the worst. The look on their individual faces was full of hate, pure anger towards me. It was like looking at a still photograph which was taken a split second before I was going to be physically ripped apart. My arms, then my legs, and finally my head. And you know what, I even looked around to see if there were any mirrors about, fixed in strange positions with hidden cameras behind. Could I be the victim of a new prank for a YouTube channel? I looked out into the dark. I didn't see any city lights, but I just knew this plane was landing somewhere. And I forgot about my destination. I forgot whether I was taking a holiday or on a business trip. And then my whole body froze. It had nothing to do with the strange people looking at me. I noticed how quiet the engine of the plane was. My whole body became still with shock, because I started to hear screaming in the distance and crying. There was a general feeling of sadness around me. I went over everything in my mind. The plane wasn't going to crash, there was no sense of accident or danger, but the plane was definitely landing. Standing up and looking around was a personal routine now, so on automatic pilot I looked again at all the passengers. Oh my God. Everyone had a big beaming happy smile directed at me. A smile that made them all look as if they'd been mass possessed by the devil. A forced happiness. I slowly sat down, scared and confused. When the plane came to a stop on what seemed like a runway in darkness, that's when I knew exactly what was happening. I realised why I had that something's not right feeling in my gut. The screams immediately outside, much louder now. I was terrified. The screams were from a lot of people, women, men and children, all different ages. Screaming together, they sounded like the choir of the dead. This is what real fear sounds like. Oh, I realised what was going on. I had actually arrived in hell itself. and I definitely passed away beforehand. This flight of terror was my last journey, my journey to hell. And those people on this plane are also going with me. There was a brief silence. If I was alive, I would have been able to hear the blood pumping around my body, but there was just silence. Then suddenly the passenger door opened and the smell of horror flooded inside the plane. I knew hell had special plans for me. It was going to make all those fears I had while I was living become real and actually happen. Remember when you next travel as a passenger on a plane, just before takeoff, get up and look at the passengers behind you. And if you notice everyone's smiling at you, it's highly likely that you're already dead. If you enjoy listening to my voice, watch another video right now and remember to subscribe. Leave me a comment. I'd love to know your thoughts. And one of you listening right now is going to have me knock on your window in 4, 3, 2,